Tzezaveh. Thank you. This week's Parasha, Parasha Tzezaveh. And there's also this week is Parashat Zachor. We'll talk about for briefly. But Parashat Tzezaveh discusses the making of the clothing for the Kohanim and for the Kohen Gadol. The regular Kohen wore four garments: the ketonet, a tunic, the jacket, the shirt, the mitznefet, which was a turban. There's actually a machloket regarding the mitznefet because the Kohen Gadol also wore one. Was it a totally different hat, or and therefore Kohen Gadol wore one hat and the regular Kohen wore a different hat, or was it the exact because it's a turban, so it's the exact same type of scarf, but it's just wrapped in a different way. So some say it was wrapped in a different way for a Kohen Gadol versus a regular Kohen. Some say no, it was an entire different thing. The third item is a avnet, which was a sash, like a belt. And actually, I saw that the avnet was actually pretty long. It was 32 amot long. An amah is about a foot and a half. So you're talking about a 45-foot long belt that was wrapped around and wrapped around the person. Um, this could help with sizes if a person was a little bit bigger, a little bit thinner. But also because the number 32 is the same number, numerical value as the word lev, which means the heart, that they have to make sure the Kohanim have their heart into it, have their proper intentions when doing the avodah and the Bet HaMikdash. And of course, the fourth item that they were wearing were the michnasayim, the pants. The Kohen Gadol wore four additional garments. The choshen was the breastplate, which had the names of the shvatim etched into the precious stones on the choshen. The ephod, which was a special apron, which on the shoulders of the apron had the avnei shoham, which are the two onyx-colored stones that had on one side 6 names of the shvatim, the other side the other 6 names. The Kohen Gadol also wore a tzitz, which was a golden plate on his head right here with a wrap in the background, and that said the words Kodesh Lashem, holy to God. And it's interesting that it's good that we're doing a visual here. The Kohen Gadol would have the tzitz made out of gold right here, and then right here was his tefillin, and behind his tefillin was his hat. So the hat, as you see, the turban that was wrapped, it gave room for the tefillin, and then right under the tefillin was the golden tzitz that said Kodesh Lashem. And the last thing that the Kohen Gadol wore was the me'il, which was an outer robe on top of everything else, and it would reveal the breastplate, but it was kind of on the sides, and that robe was specific for the Kohen Gadol. So this parasha goes into the details of all of these items. And the end of the parasha talks about the construction of the golden mizbeach, which the ketoret, which the incense, was put on. This week's also Parashat Zachor. We have to remember that our arch enemy Amalek, they attacked us upon leaving Egypt. We were at the top of our game. We just beat out the strongest country, the Egyptians, yet they came to attack us. We have to remember that. We have to remember that what they did, they opened the door for all subsequent enemies. And we have to remember that and get rid of Amalek when we know who they are, because nowadays we don't know exactly who's Amalek. People have the traits of Amalek. They want to destroy the Jewish nation, etc., different enemies of ours, but we don't know exactly until Mashiach comes. There's actually a story about this where a person accidentally, unfortunately, got into a car accident. He accidentally killed someone, and he was very distraught over it. That there's blood on his hands. It was an accident, total accident, but someone died through his actions, and he was very distraught over it. And he sent a letter to the great Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and he wrote the entire story to him. And when he received the letter back, the rabbi only wrote one word on that letter. He wrote the word Amalek, like don't worry, meaning it's you killed an Amalek. And he couldn't believe it. Wow, how did the rabbi know? And how it's unbelievable. And not long later, they found out that this man was actually a neo-Nazi, and he was therefore a trait of an Amalek. So we have to make sure that to come to shul on Shabbat to hear Parashat Zachor, it's a mitzvah from the Torah, Zachor, to remember what Amalek did to us, and therefore it's a mitzvah from the Torah. Make sure to come to shul to listen to it. So Parashat Tzezaveh is interesting that it's the only parasha from the moment Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Parashat Shemot until the end of the Torah. Every parasha has Moshe Rabbeinu's name in it, except for Parashat Tzezaveh. And why Tzezaveh? And why is Moshe Rabbeinu's name missing? So, if we remember, when Hashem wanted to destroy Bnei Israel because of the golden calf, Moshe, our great leader, he said to Hashem, Hashem, you're not destroying them. These are the children of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. If you want to destroy them, because Hashem said to Moshe, you know what, I want to destroy them, I'm going to start a new nation through you. Moshe Rabbeinu, our great leader, says, no, no, no. He said that I want you to, mecheni na misifrecha, erase me from your sefer, if that's what you want to do. Erase me from your book, if that's what you want to do. And our Chachamim tell us that even when words come out of a great person's mouth, like Moshe Rabbeinu, even if it's justified, even if he told Hashem, if not, erase me. Because he said, erase me from your book, there had to be a book. There had to be somewhere where Moshe Rabbeinu was erased to fulfill at least that one little thing that Moshe Rabbeinu said. And why Tzezaveh? Because, as the Baal HaTurim says, mecheni na misifrecha, erase me from your book. The way to read misifrecha could also be misefer chaf. Chaf is the end of misifrecha, from your sefer. Chaf is the letter 20. Parashat Tzezaveh is the 20th parasha in the Torah. And therefore, in a certain way, Moshe Rabbeinu says, erase me from your 20th, from misifrecha, the 20th parasha. And there's a famous Dvar Torah that I probably say it every year. I just think it's a fascinating concept, and I want to say it here as well. The contractor of the Mishkan is Betzalel. Betzalel, the Torah tells us something very interesting about him. Betzalel was lachshov machshavot bazahav bakesef ubanechoshet. That he was able, the pasuk says, to think thoughts about gold, silver, and copper. Now, what does that mean, to think thoughts about gold, silver, and copper? So here's a story that brings out this explanation. Story goes that at some point in Europe, there was a tax on kosher meat. And the government wanted to get involved and reap some benefit from the Jews that were doing shechita. So the Jews tried to outsmart, maybe they did for a certain period of time, and they did their own shechita in their own backyard. They did it in places where they felt the government wouldn't catch them, so that they'll be evading the taxes, essentially. One time, and then word got to the police, word got to the people from the government that the Jews were evading taxes. So they would send out different types of policemen, officers, to try finding and catching these shochets that were doing shechita in a way that was evading taxes. And the story goes that they entered a place that they caught the shochet red-handed doing a shechita on an animal. The shochet was so scared that actually he did shechita to the officer. He killed the officer, the non-Jewish officer. But this unfortunately caused a very big uproar. And the Goyim, they used this to their benefit to totally ransack the city and the Jews of the city. And they went crazy on us, unfortunately. So much so that they themselves even realized at the end, say, you know what? We went too far over here. We should have just punished that guy that killed that shochet that killed the officer. He had to get his punishment. Why did the whole city have to get the punishment? They felt, even themselves, they said they went too far. So they decided they're going to take a big amount of money and put it towards those that were affected by this pogrom, essentially. The rabbi at the time, I think it was the Brisker Rav, he said, you know what? The organization that wants to head this committee of distributing the money, he felt was not a correct organization. He felt that they didn't have the right intentions in mind. Sometimes when you have a big amount of money, you say, I'll give this person first. This person is my friend. This person is my cousin. And they would do things maybe not in the ideal way. The rabbi tried to persuade them that he should go under his organization, but they didn't listen. And that organization ended up getting the money. Not long later, a woman who was a widow, who had orphans, came to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, my little vegetable store burnt down to a crisp in this pogrom. I didn't get one penny from the organization. He says, what? You should have been the first one to get a penny. You should have been the first one to get paid. You're a widow. You have orphans. You should have been the first one. He was very upset. He called the representatives of that committee to meet with them. So they didn't say no. They came to meet with the rabbi, and the rabbi said, he opened the Chumash and he said, what does it mean when it says over here that Betzalel was a person that was able to think thoughts about the gold, silver, and copper? What does that mean? They didn't know. And he explained the following. He said, imagine they're collecting money for the Mishkan. And in the Mishkan, there are items made out of gold, made out of silver, made out of copper. So now let's say they're collecting gold. Everyone wants their gold on the menorah, on the Aron HaKodesh. There could be some gold cups and gold forks on the side somewhere, but everyone wants their gold to be in the best of places. So therefore, how do you know which gold to put where? So Betzalel was able to read people's minds and to see what's this person's real intention. Are they giving this gold because they really want to make a Kiddush Hashem? They really want the Mishkan to be built? Or are they doing it because, well, they just, their friend's pressuring them to give, and that's why they're going to give. But they don't really want to do it on their own. And therefore, Betzalel was able to see what the intention of each person was. So the rabbi tells the committee, he says, look, this lady, this widow, she is like the highest level of gold. The money should have gone to her first. But because you didn't have the right intentions and you weren't dispersing the money correctly, you didn't have the merit to give the money to the proper place. The person that wants his gold to go to the menorah, you have to have a zechut to go to the menorah. You have to have a zechut to go to the Aron HaKodesh, to the high places. If you don't have that zechut, Betzalel is not putting that money there. You had this money that you got from the pogrom. The government gave you a big amount of money. You had to go seek out the people that really needed it most. Unfortunately, you gave it to your friends first, your cousins first, this first. You had to give it to the orphans, the widows. They should have been the number ones. And you didn't do that. And therefore, you didn't merit to give properly. And therefore, it all goes with kavanah. If your intention is not correct, then that could be very off in many things. If a person's intention is good, then that's already could set him up on the proper path. And that also leads to another point where the Torah tells us that this contractor, Betzalel, he's mentioned in the Torah as Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur, the Mate Yehuda. So he is the Torah mentions his grandfather, Hur. So Hur was Miriam's son. Now, why does the Torah mention the grandfather? Generally mention just the father, Betzalel ben Uri. Why all the way to the grandfather? Now, the grandfather Hur was a special person. He was a tzaddik. Not only was he a tzaddik, when it came the time of the golden calf, he actually sacrificed, and he went against the mob that wants to make the golden calf. He said, "You guys are doing this wrong. This is avodah zarah. You can't do this, etc." What happened to him? They ended up killing him. Hur died because this mob were so into the avodah zarah, they killed Hur. Now, you could say, Hur, come on, look at this. You have a whole mob against you, and why did you go into the fire? He felt this was correct, and he went with the right kavanah, he went with what's right, even though it cost him his life at the end of the day. But he didn't lose out. His grandson was the contractor of the Mishkan. He got that zechut to have his grandson being the main one. And his grandfather's name is there, Hur, because the sacrifice of the grandfather still went onto the children. It didn't go for nothing. It still went to the children.
Mm.
Reminds me of a story of I've also mentioned this story in the past. It's a powerful story. It's a sad, powerful story. But the story goes during World War II, during World War II, the war finished and there were survivors looking for family members. And a lady that survived was looking for her parents. And she found out that her father got killed just before the end of the war. And she says, how did he get killed? What happened? And the story goes that the Nazis, they call over this person, let's call him Yitzchak. They say, Yitzchak, we noticed that throughout the entire time that you were here in Auschwitz, you never ate non-kosher. You would always give your soup or whatever to trade it for bread. You never ate non-kosher. Well, now the Allies are coming to kill us, says the Germans. We have nothing left to lose. We're gonna give you an option here. Here's a non-kosher piece of meat or the revolver. What are you gonna take? Are you gonna take eating the non-kosher piece of meat, or are you gonna take being killed? Now, just to put this in brackets for a second, the halacha is you could eat the meat in this case. There's only three things that you got to get killed for. If it's number one, someone says, I'm going to kill you or kill Reuven, you gotta take the bullet. You can't kill someone. Or I want to kill you or do an illicit relationship. That you can't do. You have to take the bullet. The third is I'm going to kill you or serve idols. No, I can't. I got to take the bullet. Anything else though, you could do. I'm gonna kill you or steal. I'm gonna kill you or um, defy your parents. Defy your parents. I'm gonna kill you or eat non-kosher. Eat non-kosher. But if there are 10 Jews that are watching, that's already in public. The power of a minyan is very strong. If there are 10 Jews that are watching, so the person says, I'm going to kill you or eat this non-kosher in front of 10 Jews, then the sin is magnified because it's in front of 10 Jews. And in that case, you got to take the bullet. I'm going to kill you or steal in front of 10 Jews. I'm going to kill you or say Lashon Hara, and it's in front of 10 Jews. You got to take the bullet because of that Avera is so great. So here it must have been there was other Jews watching, and this person said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to eat the non-kosher. And he got killed. And the daughter, she couldn't believe that her father got killed because of this. You sacrificed, like, are you serious? And therefore she developed a minhag. Every Friday, she moved to Israel. Every Friday, she'd go and buy pork, unfortunately, and eat it on Shabbat. Because she says, how can my father so stupid? He didn't eat the non-kosher. I don't care. This is what God did to my father. I'm going to eat the non-kosher on Shabbat. And she was very strict about it. And she would raise her kids with this. And one day she got older and she told her son, go to that store and get me the non-kosher. And he says, he was tired that day, whatever it was. And no, I won't get it for you. She got adamant. Go get it. Go get it. You have to get it. And the son says, why is my mother so adamant? She never told him the story of the grandfather. And finally, he says, Mom, you're so adamant about this. What is it? Why are you so adamant? And she finally revealed, she says, your grandfather, he was so stupid. How could he have given of his life, not even a kosher? But the grandson says, hold on a second. My grandfather couldn't have been that stupid. How could he have? No one would do that. There must have been something here that he stood for. There must be something here. No one would give up their life just like that. And he researched. He went into the Torah. He recognized the beauty and the greatness of the Torah. And the grandson became a great rabbi. The way I heard the story is that he's a rabbi that teaches in the city of Baltimore. I heard this story about 20 years ago from a rabbi of mine in Yeshiva in Israel. But the point here is the grandfather's sacrifice, it paid off for the grandchildren. Don't think that your sacrifice is going to go for nothing. It pays off. One last story, we'll end with this. The great rabbi, the Chazon Ish, after World War II as well, opened a yeshiva, opened a kollel and a yeshiva in Bnei Brak. And one day, a guy came in shorts and t-shirt, and he says, I want to learn Torah. So the other people were a little bit like, this guy coming shorts and t-shirt, like a Chiloni. He says, the great Rabbi Chazoni, should we let him in or not? He said, no, let him in. Of course, let him in. He said, but look, he's not, I don't know if he's religious. I don't know what he's. He said like this. He said, before the war, unfortunately, people were leaving the path of Torah. Some people were Torah. But their mothers and grandmothers were praying and crying, why is my grandchild leaving the path of Torah? Those prayers were answered with the great-grandchildren and the next generations. You see, this man, he's a survivor from the war. He is nothing. He doesn't know any better. And now he's coming to want to learn Torah. These are from the prayers of the grandmothers and the great-grandmothers. And therefore, nothing goes for naught. The sacrifices that our parents make, our grandparents, our great-grandparents make, it goes for the children, it goes for the grandchildren. We see this by Hur, we see this in the story here, we see this in the story with the Chazon Ish. B'ezrat Hashem, we continue sacrificing for Hashem, for our family, to do Hashem's will all the time. Chazaku Baruch. Thank you for logging on. And God willing, we will see you on Shabbat, if not earlier.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi. We'll see you this evening,
Thank you,
actually.
Rabbi.
Chazaku Baruch.
Thanks, Rabbi. Be well.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank you.
Bye, Rabbi. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.